35-25. Launch pass to Chambers and behind the back.
Did you ever think in your wildest dreams? I guess.
KJ to Chambers. Damn!
40 points in the first half for Tom Chambers.
Chambers to win the game. He's got it.
George Allen and Dick Van Arsdale with the call on ESPN. TC torching his former team. Mr. 60 and the Suns rout the Sonics in March of 1990. Welcome to Suns Day Classics post-game show presented by Casino Arizona and Talking Stick Resort, here with Tommy Guns, Tom Chambers. Get ready to watch, TC, the next half hour of yourself, and I know you love that, and you always talk about sweating, so you're going to need the towel, man.
I'm already.
You're going to need that.
I'm not going to have to look away.
I was trying to hide that right here so you didn't see it, but I know
you did a good job.
Yeah, it's even Gatorade too. I think
That's
it's
good.
NBA sponsored. 34 days earlier, you had scored 56 at Golden State, and just to prove that wasn't a fluke, then you come back with 60 against your former team. Pretty satisfying, I would imagine.
It was awesome. It really was. I mean, the guys, we had a couple of our stars out, obviously, with Marley out and Jeff Hornacek out. We needed some scoring, heavy scoring, because nobody else was really hot that game. And also being against my former teammates and my former coach, and 3 of those guys on that team were guys that they felt would replace me. So they didn't really, maybe they didn't need me anymore, if you will. It was great. It really was. The last basket there was over Sean Kemp, and Sean obviously became a superstar in the league too, so it was fun.
Does Eddie get an assist for that? I mean, he took a couple of dribbles. He passed it to you in the corner.
Well, I know Magic got one on Kareem's last one. I think Kareem dribbled 3 or 4 times each way. I don't know.
Eddie's going to take credit for that.
Well, yeah.
You never would have gotten 60 without me. We'll talk to Eddie a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, he will. He'll take credit.
Let's take a look at some more of your highlights, some more sweating going on for TC here. 22 of 32 from the field, 16 of 18 at the line. Not one three-pointer. You had a couple shots that were very close to threes. And, TC, you weren't really 100%, right? A hamstring injury, or what was going on?
Yeah, I had strained a hamstring, and we had a couple other guys, and I played. I didn't miss very many games at all during my career, and so I was bound to play. In fact, Coach Bickerstaff asked me, he said, "I thought you weren't even supposed to play," and I just said, "Hey, I wouldn't have missed this for the world," But we were shorthanded as it was, and we wanted to win. We were in a really tight race that year with San Antonio to try and secure a home court advantage in the playoffs, and so every game was very important for us.
And how about the setup crew in this game? KJ, 10 assists. Greg Grant had 8 assists, most of those to you. Gogo was spectacular in that game. Both those guys setting you up in the absence of Jeff Hornacek and Dan Marley.
Well, I'll tell you, they really did a great job of that. We struggled with Jeff out of the game, so other teams would just trap Kevin, and it made it difficult because without those shooters on the floor with Kevin, it was more difficult. Eddie wasn't shooting particularly well at the time, although we ended up at 50% in that game. But yeah, Greg came in and he was able to break that press when, Seattle, and I played with Seattle, and they pick up full court a lot, and you've got to have ball handlers in there. And without Jeff, it was more difficult on Kevin. He struggled, but he really got the ball to the right people. He busted through and did a nice job with that. And they just kept leaving me open. I made a couple of difficult shots, but I had a lot of open shots.
Well, you're part of a very small group in the 1990s to score 60 points in a game. It is our Jim Beam, raise one to your fan family. Only 4 players, you, Karl Malone, MJ did it twice, and David Robinson in the entire decade.
That is amazing, and you look at that, even 94 David's was, but a lot of people, or nobody did it after that, but that's pretty fun to look at numbers like that, look at people like that, and obviously Hall of Famers, and it was a fun season. It was a terrific game.
And after the game, you came back out of the locker room and talked with the original son, Dick Van Arsdale.
Tom, tonight, I've been in this game 25 years, and you gave me one of the biggest thrills I've ever had, watching you score 60 points and seeing how happy your teammates are in the process. You have to be feeling so good. That's what's so neat about it. You know, I get hot and I feel good and I want the ball, but my teammates are the ones saying that, you know, get in this spot will get you the ball, get there will get you the ball, and it's such a neat feeling to be shooting all the shots anyway, and them trying to give me even more shots. It's a great feeling. Well, now you not only broke the Coliseum record for points, but you know, Paul Westphal and I shared the record for most field goals in the game at 20. You had 19 at Golden State when you had 56. Tonight, 22. Do you feel badly about that? No, not at all. It's something that I was going to get. I didn't even think about that. It was fun, and it was great, and I'm sorry to have broken your record, but somebody had to do it. Did this mean any more to you since you scored it against the team that you used to play for, Seattle? I mean, those guys seem to be happy for you, too. I know they're unhappy that you're not there anymore. They are. It's a good group of guys. They all congratulated me. Bernie even came down and did it. It was nice to do it because the Seattle friends and family I have up there were able to see it also.
Oh yes, everybody in Seattle able to enjoy your performance, except for I guess the Sonic fans, but friends and family. I love seeing the 30-year-old Tom Chambers. You still look
30?
pretty darn
That was
good,
30?
man. You're hanging in there.
Yeah, I thought I did look pretty good back then. Yeah.
You look like a baby.
Absolutely.
So we talked about Jeff Hornacek and Dan Marley. They did not play in this game because of injuries. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, it's K-Ray with Jeff Hornacek, who did witness that 60-point masterpiece from the bench.
All right, we are hanging out with none other than our guy, Jeff Hornacek. Horny, as he was called affectionately throughout his career. And Jeff, you know, we're talking about TC's big career night, 60 points against his former club, the Seattle Sonics. Now, of course, you and Dan Marley didn't play in that game. So maybe the biggest question was that the first early days of load management?
Yeah, I don't know. I think both of us were probably hurt at that time. I don't remember what the injuries were, but maybe that's why Tom got all those shots. He seemed like he shot it every time down the court. But, you know, I think when we talk about that team and Tom's performances, he may have scored 60 that night, but he had so many other big nights that, you know, it was amazing to just watch him play. 'Cause it's not a super fast pace. You know, you look at him and you think he's slow, but he's 6'11", you know, almost 7 foot tall doing that stuff. And he knew angles. He would just go in there, spin, and then just pump fake and just find the opening, flip it up, left-handed, right-handed. It's a lot of fun to watch from the bench.
You know, it was interesting as we went back and watched this game, and this is one of the, you know, this becomes one of those talking points when you're talking to today's young NBA players. But you said it best. In many ways, he got 60, and it looked almost effortless the way he did it.
Yeah, you know, he hit his mid-range jump shots. He got to the free throw line. I think that's the big difference in today's game is, you know, you have guys like Harden, those guys. That's why he scores 35 a game, because he gets to the free throw line. I'm not sure how many free throws, Tom. If you're scoring 60, you're making a lot of buckets, but you're also getting free throws. You get technicals. And, you know, that team, especially with Kevin, you know, Kevin was able to get teams into the bonus pretty fast because he was so good at penetrating. And, you know, they had to grab him half the time, and Tom knew how to draw fouls, and Eddie did. So we were always in the bonus relatively early, and then that's a big advantage for that offensive player like Tom, who can just take his time. You know, you watched him, and like you said, it was an easy 60. It was crazy to rewatch it, and just mixed it up. He was unstoppable.
Well, Horny, as always, great to catch up with you. We can talk hoops all day long, but we will cut you loose. As always, great to see you, my man.
No problem. It's been fun watching these old games. So continue the great work, and you know, those are special times. Even though I was gone by the time they went to the finals, that transition from being a 28-win team to 55 and going to the Western Conference Finals, a lot of fun with those guys. So appreciate it.
So he talked about other big games by Tom Chambers. Let's go back to that 56-point game at Golden State about a month before your 60-point game against Seattle. Both Hornacek and Marley played in that game. You still scored 56, and those guys took a combined 30 shots. So you proved that you could still score that amount of points even with those guys healthy. I'm just trying to back you up here, because it wasn't because those guys didn't play.
Well, those guys averaged a bunch of points. Eddie, he was close to 20. Kevin was 20. You know, Jeff was 20. We just scored a bunch of points on people. When you play Golden State, guess what? you score a bunch more
Yes,
points.
you do.
Because there's not much defense applied.
Thank you, Don Nelson. Yeah, thank you, Nelly. Done with one here on the postgame show, our Suns Day Classics TC's 60-point game back in March of 1990. When we come back, he has his own top 5, plus K-Ray with another eyewitness. Then Suns assistant coach Paul Westphal will join us coming up. Welcome back. Suns Day Classics postgame show presented by Casino Arizona and Talking Stick Resort. TC's Top 5 sponsored by Ticketmaster. His masterpiece, 60-point game in 1990, still a Coliseum record. But there were some other highlights, including Go.
Go was just, he came here, I think, when I came here, the more modern jumping Go, you know.
Good job by Brian Larvey to get that
How about
trampoline.
that? We had to put Eddie in there at number 4. I mean, he got an assist right there. Did you see that?
No, I missed it. I was talking about Brian Larvey grabbing the trampoline, but that's all right. Eddie had 5 assists. We'll talk to him about that.
Oh boy, he passed too much, huh? He couldn't shoot that game. No, he was actually made a couple. Look at Go, setting me up, down low. That jumps back then, even off 2 feet.
We need to find out what Go-Go Grant is up to these days.
Yeah, really, what a fun little guy. He wasn't around very long. Neither was Kenny Battle.
Look at
a couple of guys who were stars. Rambus, he couldn't jump over a phone book, and that guy was always in the right spot at the right time. Kenny Battle could run and jump.
Those two guys played great in that game, Battle and Rambus.
Another Illinois guy with our other Illinois guy.
Oh, yeah. Force it.
Boom. How do you force it when you have 58 points?
I know. George Allen will never live that down for Tom Chambers.
Chambers forces it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right over the Rain Man.
And he had 5 fouls, too. We were all kind of in foul trouble that game.
There you go. Yeah, according to Dick Van Arsdale, who said this during the game, the X-Man Xavier McDaniel had said that the Sonics were crazy to let you go, and you helped prove his case.
Well, I mean, I had a great relationship with X, I really did, and Derek McKee. I mean, just they were fun teammates, enjoyed them, but I just saw writing on the wall where they were going to, insert them, play them a lot more. They were a little bit younger than I was, and so I just had an opportunity because of free agency that year, and 2 years actually before that, and it couldn't have been better for me to come to Phoenix. They ended up playing really well. We ended up playing really well. Fortunately, we were a little bit better than they were, so it was fun.
It's also fun to talk to Cole Michelson, Suns Media Relations, always giving us good juice, good information. Here you go. In NBA history, TC, there have been 4,489 players, all right, to step on the court.
Wow.
Only 27 have scored 60 or more. 27 of those. 23 of the 27 are either in the Hall of Fame or locks to get in. So that leaves 4 others. All right, 2 are still kind of working on it. Devin Booker, Kemba Walker. That leaves 2. Gilbert Arenas and Tom Chambers.
Gilbert Arenas! Come on, man, really?
Yeah.
Thanks for putting me in that classification.
Well, no, but I mean, still, like,
I guess
he's an outlier.
We both like guns, so I guess that's okay.
Oh, my. I can't wait to see if that makes it through editing when this airs on Fox Sports Arizona. Meanwhile, Kevin Ray with the 2019 Hall of Fame inductee, Paul Westphal, who does feel like you deserve a hall pass.
All right, Westy. Well, you can appreciate a night like TC had, being a lethal scorer such as yourself. What was it about this particular night, and how would you maybe compare the shots that TC was getting on this night where he got 60 compared to the 56 that he had gotten earlier in the season?
Well, it's hard to compare those two. When you're as old as I am, that's a long time ago. But all I can do is generally say that Tom, such a versatile scorer, he could have been a scoring star in any era, literally any era that the NBA has ever seen, right up till today. He was a good ball handler. He was very quick. He could go either way. He had the outside shot. He could step out to 3 if necessary, which was very unusual in those times. And he'd finish with either hand around the basket. He could run in the break, so he could post up. So when Tom was scoring, he was doing all those things, plus he could get to the line. That was one of the major things. Tom was going to get fouled and going to make his free throws. So when he had all that stuff going, he was pretty unstoppable.
Do you remember what's your first impression, and maybe that first time that you saw TC when he was, when we was playing in Seattle, and what were your thoughts, I guess, when you found out that he would be wearing a Suns uniform?
Well, Tom and I went back pretty far. We I was real aware of him in college, and he and Danny Vrains were two highly rated forwards playing for Jerry Pym there. And so Tom used to come work at our basketball camp, and he ended up having the same agent that I did, Howard Slusher. So we were aware of each other, and way before he got to Seattle. In fact, we were aware of him when he got drafted in San Diego. My brother was the assistant coach there. So Tom was no surprise to me the way he could score and his versatility.
You know, it was great in watching and listening some of the remarks from Xavier McDaniel following the game. Of course, X-Man was one of the guys assigned to trying to stop him. And as Van shared on the telecast, Xavier McDaniel was not happy about TC being allowed to leave Seattle. And in some ways, you could tell he was especially sour about it on this night.
Well, it was they broke up a high-scoring group up there when they let Tom go. And I don't think that they had, obviously, nearly as much foresight as the direction free agency was going and the league was going, or they never would have let him go for nothing.
When you looked at that particular group, especially with KJ leading the way, I mean, how much more did that open up the playbook for TC and even the others within that offense as you and Cotton sat down to kind of break down what this group could look like offensively?
Well, Cotton was just the perfect coach for all those guys because he gave them confidence. He just told them to run and don't be afraid, take shots, play unselfish, and play to your strengths. And it worked immediately. As soon as Tom came, that year, I think we had won 27 games the year before. We went to 55 wins. It was the biggest turnaround in NBA history. And the results were immediate. Cotton believed in them, and they took it from there.
What was maybe the most underappreciated quality about TC's game that you maybe quickly observed as an assistant coach and a former player yourself?
To me, it was his fearlessness. He just was going to attack, period. And sometimes Lionel Hollins was the other assistant on that team. Sometimes he would pull up and shoot a three when threes were not that common in those days, in a really big part of the game, and make it. We just look at each other and go, that guy's got guts. And that was Tom.
You know, as a former NBA All-Star Weekend horse champion, you know, back in '74, who wins the horse competition between you and TC?
Well, you could ask Tom. I don't like that.
Hey, Westy, thanks so much for the time. Could sit and talk Suns and NBA stories with you for hours and hours, but it's always great to catch up with an iconic Sun and a Hall of Famer.
Thank you, K-Ray. Anytime.
That's one of the bright spots of these quarantines. I mean, hearing from Paul Westphal and Jeff Hornacek and Charles Barkley and Marley, all these guys.
Thank them so much for coming on and doing that. Just great people, and I guess there's not a whole lot else to do right now, though.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Kind of hard to turn us down, I guess. One of the key moments of your game, scoring 60, timeout with a little over 4 minutes to go. Cotton is the head coach, Paul one of the assistants. You had 58. Cotton could have kept you out of that game. Right? You guys were up by over 20 points. So I think all the fans were like, oh, man, keep them in. What did you think was going to happen?
I thought I was going to get the basketball and have an opportunity to get 60. Yeah. And I think he actually said, you're going to have one shot here, okay? You're going to have one shot to get to 60. So they knew it. My teammates knew it. They wanted to do it. And I forced it, as George Allen said, and it went in.
As we've now mentioned a couple of times, we'll take a break. The guy that gave you the pass that led to the 60 points, Eddie Johnson, will join us next on Suns Day Classics postgame show. Suns Day Classics postgame show rolls on, presented by Casino Arizona and Talking Stick Resort. TC's 60-point game against the Sonics, joined now not only by the man who had the 60 points, but your teammate on that squad, Eddie Johnson, joining us now. And all right, let's get this straight. Eddie, you actually passed the ball to TC for the play where he scored the 60 points, but he took a dribble or so and forced it over Sean Kemp. Do you deserve an assist for that one?
Yeah. You know why? Anytime I passed the ball, they should have gave me an assist. That's how I look at it. I don't care if it was 2 dribbles after that or he passed it to 2 more.
Is this Eddie Johnson or Magic Johnson? I think we're talking to Magic, aren't we?
Did I look away? Did I look away when I passed?
All right, we're going to take a look at the PayPal highlights. Keep scoring when you download and check out with PayPal. TC had 35 of his 60 in the first half. And Eddie, you can relate to high-scoring halves because you had that 43-point half against the Clippers in 1988. But what was going on in the first half of this game?
He was relentless. I mean, he wanted to show his old team. Even though they didn't trade him, he left. I don't know why he was mad at him, but anyway, he just wanted to show them what they missed. And guess what? We were the kind of team that if you had the hot hand, we got you the ball. And it didn't matter who you were. I mean, that particular year, it was times when Armin Gilliam got hot, gave him the ball. KJ was hot, gave him the ball. Horny got hot, gave him the ball. I mean, we were always conscious of that. And so we knew he was going to have to go on that night, so we made sure we kept getting it to him.
So we talk about your passing prowess. You know what? I think we actually have footage of Tom Chambers passing you the ball on his 60-point night because it's our first bank money drive. So every now and again, TC would dish, and this thing was right on the money from beyond midcourt.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, he was so far away from the other basket, he turned around, he saw me streaking, he had no chance. Hey, he could have pulled a Moses Malone on his way, dropped the ball back to the guard and walked up the court. But he saw me out there, he said, okay, go ahead. He might have been a little fatigued too from shooting the ball so much, but no, he had to pass that one. That's how we played. That looked like an angry assist. Take it, Eddie.
But at least it was on target angry. Eddie used to throw angry passes at my ankles, like, oh, I got to pass it.
And Eddie's going back to the bench with Kenny Battle going, can you believe TC actually passed the ball? I know, crazy. Good stuff, EJ. Hey, thank you for your time.
Thanks Eddie.
For sharing TC's 60-point game.
I like the chin hairs, Eddie. You look good, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it because my fans like me with the Denzel look, so I can't come with the Fred Sanford look yet.
Back here on Sun's Day Classics post-game show with Tom Chambers, who authored the 60-point game in 1990 against your former team, the Sonics. Now, back in the day, now we have Adrian Wojnarowski, but back in the day, the guy who had all the scoops, Peter Vesey.
Yes.
He was on NBC. I think he wrote for the New York Post. But if you wanted to know anything about the league,
he was the guy.
He was the guy. Here he is with Dick Van Arsdale at halftime of TC's game.
What about Tom Chambers tonight? Have you seen a better performance this year?
It looks so easy to him. That's the attitude he has out there. The game's too easy for him. I think the commissioner ought to make him play with the Nets next year. See how easy the game is for him then.
Well, good thing you stayed here with the Suns and didn't go play for the Nets.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't. In fact, that's one of the reasons I left Seattle, because I didn't want to go play for the Nets.
Good point. Well, your 60-point record stood for 27 years until it was broken. I'm sorry, I had to bring it up.
Yeah,
by Devin Booker's 70 points. But he did it on the exact same date, March 24th.
That is weird.
That is really weird. Crazy stuff. We have another Suns Day Classic coming your way next week. It's the Suns in the playoffs against the Lakers. Game 6, we call it the Tim Thomas game. That's when Tim hit a huge three. The Suns were down 3-1 in this series to Kobe and the Lakers, but they came back to win it in 7. We'll even talk to Tim Thomas about his performance in this series and, of course, that clutch shot that nobody can forget. It'll be great to hear from Tim Thomas, too, because we talk about some of these guys, the role players, trying to figure out what they're doing now. We don't see them here.
Yeah, we don't. Injuries gave him an opportunity, and he was cold-blooded. He could just knock down shots like he'd been doing. Like he was an all-star that year for us. That was fun.
Yep. Our thanks to Ryan Bafalukas, Peyton Wignes, Dave Grappentine, the entire staff, as we look back on TC's 60-point game. Man, everybody loved it but that guy, Bernie Bickerstaff.
He wasn't real happy, was he?
Well, he seemed okay in the beginning, a little wink there, but as time went along in this game, a little more stressed out. TC, this is a lot of fun. You can stop sweating now.
I can't stop sweating. I'm laughing at Bernie. Oh, man, I love it.
Don't forget to wash that towel, by the way.
Yeah, a little saturated right now.
Tommy Guns!